The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard Level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a Level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's June the 21st, 2024, and this is episode number 42. Thank you very much for joining us. On today's show, we'll be talking about the Ford F-150 Lightning SuperTruck and its debut at Pikes Peak, a squad of Hyundai Ioniq 5N also making their Pikes Peak debut, Fisker filing for bankruptcy, and of course, much, much more. I'm Dominic Yoni. Joining us today is the amiable Mr. Tom Malogny, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the mischievous Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle O'Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Autospec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a number of YouTube channels. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
So everyone's doing all right? Very, very quiet this morning.
All good here.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the week where we finally give away a Grizzly Ultimate 80 amp charger from United Chargers, our sponsor, capable of supplying your EV with 19.2 kilowatts of AC juice. So we received a ton of entries, and I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to write and tell us their story. We've got some fantastic people out there in the audience, and it was really great to read all the emails and learn about you and your EV journey. Special shout out to Eric, who included photos of his former automobiles and current Rivian R1T that we apparently gave him permission to buy in Battery Bargains episode 30. But the winner of this unit is Boris. Let's see, his family has two EVs to charge and one mobile charger to do that with at the moment. So, he gives an interesting story. It's an interesting situation, and I think we'll send it to him this time. Right. Yes. Anything else you want to add to anything to that, Tom?
No, I just wanted to add that I've given away, I think, 10 units already, and it's hard to do because, especially when you ask people to like tell us your story about what why you need a charger, and there's so many of them that it's like, I wish I had 50 of them to give out, because we got a lot of emails, and reading through the emails, a lot of them, there's a lot of people that really could use level 2 charger in their house, and either can't afford it or for whatever reason don't have one. And so it's a shame we can't just keep doling them out. We'll try to get more of them. And but Boris is the winner this week. And it's not a scientific method that we use to calculate who mostly needs it. We'll try to narrow it down to a group and then read them. And Boris drew the lucky straw on this one. So I hope he enjoys it. And make sure you have a licensed electrician install it. Please don't do this yourself.
Right.
And you can dial down the power inside. The electrician can lower the output if you don't have, because to use it to its full extent, you need a 100 amp circuit. Most people aren't going to have that unless they do a service upgrade. And most people, if we're giving you one of these, chances are you're in a situation where you don't want to spend another $5,000 to upgrade your home's electricity. So you can have the electrician internally lower the output to match what you have available in your service panel, I'd recommend have your electrician do a load calculation to see how much available power you have, and then you can set the circuit to the highest amount of safe available power you have for your current service.
Yeah. It's a lot of charger, this one, the 80 amps. It's like 19. That's like more than most EVs out there can use. This either Ford F-150 Lightning can use, the whole shebang. I believe that like Cadillac Lyric with options up to that. Yeah, but really, I was looking through the emails, and most people, 40 amp charger, half of this power will do them just fine, like around 10 kilowatts. Yeah, it's really what most people. This is way too much charger for most people.
Yeah, pretty much everyone, Dom, would be fine with 40 amps. And sorry to cut in there. Where it really plays in, where it really helps, is you got a really big battery. And with my Lightning and my Rivians here, they're both very large packs, over 130 kilowatt hours each. And there are times now, it's not like I couldn't live without it. But there are times where it's been very useful for me to have that 80 amp charger with the Lightning. If, I just maybe, because I don't charge every night with a big battery like that, and I'll forget to charge one day, and then I got to go 150 miles today. Let me check where we're at with the Lightning. And it's when you pump plug that in, and it's pumping, you don't get the full 19 kilowatts into the pack. You get around 18, somewhere around there, 17.8, 18. But that's a lot of power, and it quickly replenishes. So, but for most people, 32 amps even is fine.
Right.
But this gives you the ability to lower it from the full 80 to, I think, 64 amps, 48 amps, 40 amps, 32 amps, all the way down to 16 amps. So, even maybe today you don't have the ability to charge at 80 amps in your house, you could derate it, and then 5-6 years from now, let's say maybe you do, maybe you move, or maybe you do a service upgrade, then you can go back in and crank that baby up and have the full 80 amps.
Right. That sounds good. Yeah. In Boris's case, they've been using this like mobile charger for two cars, and because they're running it for so long, it derates, on them. So they're having a hard time charging like their cars.
Yeah, they're not designed to, be the full-time charger for two EVs.
Right.
He's going to burn it out sooner or later.
Right. All right. So I guess let's get into our show today. Jordan is checking in from 12,000 feet up there on Pikes Peak. Hey, Jordan, having a good morning? I know you are, actually. Kyle, do you know what the weather is up there today?
Well, I was just up there only a few hours ago, yesterday evening, and it was cold.
Okay.
Really cold.
Yeah. It's a little early in the year. This end of June seems like a little early for Pikes Peak. Usually it's...
but the conditions are fine. I mean, we're typically battling ice up there, and that hasn't been a huge concern. It's mostly been fog has been getting in the way this year. Right. But it was like low 40s up there and huge wind chill. So it felt, winter time, and it was 90 degrees at the bottom. It was crazy.
So this coming weekend should see the 102nd running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. And we've got some interesting EV entries up there this year, and Kyle's been up there, and Jordan's still up there now. And we have some footage to talk about and different vehicles to talk about. But for those unfamiliar with Pikes Peak, this event is often referred to as the Race to the Clouds, and it's been happening since 1916. The course is 12.42 miles long, 156 different turns, and ends at the peak, which is 14,115 feet above sea level. It used to be all dirt, but they started paving sections of it in 2002 and completed paving the entire thing in 2011, which really helped the times, the historic times. So a lot of records have been broken since 2011. The first EV to race up the mountain, this is kind of interesting, was the Sears XDH-1 in 1981. It was a car from 77, actually, they built. It was a Fiat 128 3P. They used it to promote, they converted it and used it to promote Sears diehard batteries. So technically it was like a Sears car, but it's an old Fiat, and it's a cool looking one too. I think they have it in a museum. So an electric class was started in 1994, and EVs have had a small but exciting presence there most years since. The electrics really started making improvements starting around 2010. Nobuhiro Monster Tajima breaking the 10-minute mark in 2013. The 10-minute mark has been historically kind of a big deal up on the mountain. So and then just 2 years later, Reese Millen had the best overall time in an EV with a 9-minute 7-second time. And then Romain Dumas, he really laid down a marker in 2018 in the Volkswagen ID.R. It's an open wheel race car, electric. And he put down a time of 7 minutes, 57 seconds, 57.148 seconds. That still stands to this day. So that is the absolute all-time record, is in an EV on Pikes Peak. Because, of course, if you're talking about altitude in internal combustion cars, they need turbos or I don't know what. Superchargers probably help them out too at height, at altitude, because they need a lot of air, right? So you need to suck in more and more air to keep the power up. But obviously, EVs don't need that. So this year there are several electric entries that we're going to talk about them. The most promising entry is the Ford F-150 Lightning SuperTruck, or promising maybe more interesting. But this is being driven by the overall record holder, Romain Dumas. He raced the Ford Supervan 4.2 there last year, setting a record. He did it in 8.47 last year. So yeah, almost like a minute off his best time. Is that, yeah, a little over a minute. And this year in practice, he's broken the qualifying record on the first day and was the fastest on days 2 and 3. I think there's more qualifying there today, and then the race will happen on Sunday. So Kyle, you spent a bunch of time with this truck, and you have a video up on Out of Spec Reviews that people can watch and get all the, like, as you say, nerd level 9,000 details. But maybe you can fill us in a bit on how it's built, some of the specs maybe, and other interesting tidbits.
Sure, yeah. So there's only 3 different electric cars running this year. I have to preface that with Hyundai brought 3 of theirs, so 3 different types of vehicles.
Right.
And so Ford has their F-150 Lightning SuperTruck, which is insane, and I can't wait to tell you all about it, because I spent the last 2 days with the Ford team, testing, learning, tuning, and getting this thing ready to go. Is really a cool experience. Right. We also spent some time with the Hyundai guys. So they brought 3 Ioniq 5Ns, 2 of which are fully aeroed out in sort of a Pikes Peak specific specification. But then one of them's like just straight off a dealership lot, which is amazing. Literally, they were like, yeah, we just picked it up and it's stock. We haven't done anything to it. Just threw a cage. They're going to go send that up the hill. And we'll talk about those in a bit too, because I did a full video on these things. And then there is the Rivian R1T running the new quad motor system as well. And I got to spend some time with Gardner and that truck yesterday.
Cool.
And so up to this point, I now have been with all of the Pikes Peak electric cars, which is typically hard to do, but everyone was literally in the same area this week. It was great to hop between the teams, but I really spent most of my time with the Ford guys. The Ford guys were super open about everything, super passionate, definitely, I would say the most hardcore when it comes to Pikes Peak. Like those guys,
I mean, look at this thing.
F1 level, race team for this truck. They're not messing around. So this is the Ford F-150 Lightning SuperTruck, and it is loosely representative of an F-150, I would say. And I think a lot of the design cues, maybe, I don't know, because I haven't seen it, maybe would point us to what that T3 might look like. We might start seeing some of those future truck cues in this particular one.
Did anyone mention that? That was one of my points for later on. I was going to just kind of bring that up, but there were some rumors or speculation that the design, because this is designed by Ford Design, right? And so there's some speculation that possibly there's some clues about T3 here. Did you hear anything like that from the Ford team at all? Or just like,
no, they can't talk on future product, of course.
Right.
So they did say they're testing a few components to be used in a future road car. I can only imagine that that's what that would be. But I think that this is full on race car. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So basically they have, a custom chassis that's housing a custom bespoke 50 kilowatt hour battery pack. They wouldn't say it directly, but they're using a dielectric to cool the battery pack, which makes me think it's an immersion cooled battery pack, which is really cool. Just like next level tech here. And so the powertrain's all done by a company called Stard in Austria. They've worked with Ford for years. They used to build Ford rally cars. They did the super van stuff. Now they're doing this project. And these guys are like absolute lunatics. They're crazy. They're like, how do we get the most amount of power possible? And they absolutely are. So that some highlight stats on this particular truck. It's running its low power configuration for Pikes Peak, which is only 1,600 horsepower. They can do 2,000 horsepower out of a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Oh,
think about that. And they can do full power down to under 40% state of charge.
Ooh, that's nice. That's an interesting battery. I wonder what the chemistry.
It's NMC, it's 811, it's pouch cells, but they've got really thick anodes, and they'll run the temperatures really hot. So there's no thermal derate for them at all whatsoever on Pikes Peak. They precondition it at the bottom. They don't get it too cold because they still need full power. They're actually not even leaving at 100% state of charge because they want some regen. So they're like charging to like 95, 96%, starting in a reasonably chilly temperature, but not super cold. And basically they told Romain, just send it up the hill as hard as you can.
Oh, he's frozen for me. Is he frozen for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. I wonder if it was me. I've had a couple of lights going out here, but
oh really?
Yeah, maybe I know he said he hadn't got his laptop plugged in earlier, so maybe the laptop gave up. So
he's back.
He's back. There we go.
You're back. How you?
I'm back on my hotspot. For some reason, twice a day my internet cuts out for like 2 minutes. I don't know why.
All right. So where we're talking about the batteries, the thick anodes. So thick anodes, that's one of those things that helps them pump the power through the battery, right? Did they say about the C rating?
No, but you can do some math. If it's 50 kilowatt hours and it can do 1,500 kilowatt discharge, so there you go. A big C rate discharge.
I don't have my math. No.
Yeah, someone can get a calculator.
Yeah, it sounds maybe at least 5C. It sounds like at least. Got to be.
Oh, I think
maybe maybe one of our viewers. We have some smart viewers out there.
Yeah, someone do the math on that. It's a big C rate, and then charging it can do about 500 kilowatts if they wanted it to.
Ooh, okay, right.
Not they pretty much say like we never really need to charge it that fast. They're charging it at 60 kilowatts for Pikes Peak, and I think you have to give Ford props too, because while I'm watching other automakers haul diesel generators around, these guys are hauling battery packs around to charge this truck.
Right. This is another cool little. So and you know the story behind these battery packs too, right? I believe that you show them in this video at some point.
Yeah, they're at the end, but they're just Sunbelt rental, Moxion, Motion, 500 kilowatt hour battery packs. Anyone can go to their local Sunbelt generator and rent one. They weigh 12,000 pounds. I'm going to be using one this week, I think. So they're cool. They're awesome. Highly recommend doing that rather than a diesel generator. And they just charge the battery packs at the at the staging area. There's NEMA 1450 outlets. They just plug them in, let them rip full send for days. And this truck's only 50 kilowatt hours. 500's way overkill for what they need. Martin, I think, is losing power over there. What's going on, Martin?
Hey, just turning the lights off on me. It's fine. I just sit here in darkness. That's all right. But I'm not my computers. Well, I'm on my laptop, but my broadband would go. Oh, forget it. I don't know. I have no idea.
But you're still with us, so that's good.
Yeah,
all kinds of gremlins this morning. No earthquakes over there, Tom. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was going to say we're all having problems. I had no internet, TV, phone service for 2.5 days here.
What? Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. So
what happened?
It's just weird how you get so used to all that, and when you don't have it, I of course I have my phone, but where I live, I don't get great cell reception here. I'm kind of, out on the side of a mountain. It was challenging. It was challenging. And it was just my house too. There was a problem with my house. Wow. And trying to get Xfinity to come out and actually fix it was, took a lot of phone calls and visits to their local office and everything, but we got it all working.
All right. So let's, I guess, talk more SuperTruck.
Yeah, that thing's so cool.
Is it 4 motors? What's the motor setup? Oh, I think Kyle's frozen again.
Kyle's frozen again.
He's looking
he looks
rather
happy at least.
He looks rather stoic though, stoic and happy. So okay, well, one of the little things in my notes, he's going to join us again in a second, that I have about the batteries. They are NMC, but they are also lithium polymer NMC. So I'm not sure. I suspect that has to do with the anodes. He was talking about has a little thicker, more material on the anodes to help absorb and spit out the lithium ions to get all kinds of power out there. What else can we say about the car? It's got the motors. I need to find out I don't know if there's anything on the front axle or not, but there are 3 Starred, like the company who builds this thing is called Starred, and they have 3 of their, they call them UHP 6-phase motors and ultra. You're right. So 3 different motors on the back, and I suspect they're, I think that they did, because they did the Mustang Mach-E supercar demonstrator too, right? Kyle, the motors they have in these things. So I was just saying they have 3 UHP 6-phase motors. Are those actual flex motors?
So someone said yes, someone said no.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Don't know. I think they're more just like permanent magnet electric motors.
Right. You didn't see them, right? They weren't like tall, skinny kind of.
No. They look like permanent magnet motors to me.
Okay, they look like regular.
I did see them. I showed them in the video.
Like watermelon shape, basically?
Yeah, just like a typical motor. They weigh 36 kilograms and output 375 kilowatts, which is like strong for a permanent magnet motor, not crazy maybe for axial flex. So that's where I'm thinking, okay. But also no oil cooling. First time I've really seen that. So they say no need. They don't really want to go through the filtering process and the heat exchanger for oil. They water glycol cool pretty much everything, and they can get really close to the windings. They cool the rotor and the stator directly with water glycol. I'm guessing through some heat exchanger process, and yeah, works pretty well for them. I mean, obviously they're ripping up the hill with no derate, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they've got lots of downforce. That's all the body work, I guess, doing the work there.
Yeah, so at sea level, it'll make 6,000 pounds of downforce at 150 miles an hour and 10,000 pounds of downforce at 200 miles an hour. But you're at very, very low air density on Pikes Peak, and you're not always going that fast. So that's why you see so much aero on Pikes Peak vehicles, because the air is thin and you got some tight corners, so you just need as much aero as possible.
All the wings.
Yeah, but all the wings, it was interesting talking to the guys. It was really difficult for them to tune this in because they were like on a couple corners, they would get a tailwind and then the aero is working completely against you. And now it's just a big wind sail, and it's, you're trying to stop and it's pushing you along. So it's really, it's interesting in many ways of the compromises that go into a race car.
Yeah, and you don't really want to be pushed along too hard because, like as you see on the screen here, there's like no guardrail on a lot of sections here, and it's like a big drop off. So, and there have been some spills down the side of the mountain in the past. So this is not. I mean, people have died on the mountain at Pikes Peak. This is no joke. It's like a serious course. Yeah. So what else about this truck is kind of interesting. You want to tell us about the inverters?
Yeah, the inverters are IGBT instead of silicon carbide, which was interesting. We always think, okay, silicon carbide is better for a series production car, but silicon carbide is much better for a series production car because you're doing part throttle so much of the time. You want that efficiency under partial load. Whereas at 100% load, IGBT and silicon carbide actually don't have that much difference. And IGBTs are way more durable than silicon carbide. And so they've gone for a 6-phase motor. Also, better control of the motor. You have just more granular control of your magnetic fields, but also because each IGBT driver or inverter module has to work less. so they can manage temperatures by going with more phases anyway. So it's a really cool idea to do 6-phase, kind of old school IGBT, non-oil cooled motors. But the way that Stard has designed all this stuff is really next level. So their eventual goal for the company is to build a EV endurance car, which requires, high discharge, high charging, but also a lot of energy density, which means bigger, for the same size battery pack, putting in more capacity. Right now, they're like, we're focused on power density, which is like a big, heavy battery pack to output as much energy as possible. But you don't really get that much energy storage. So, this truck is designed perfectly for Pikes Peak in the sense where they can leave almost full and they're arriving at the top in single digits, right, in terms of state of charge. So they're really utilizing the whole thing. Yeah. 50 kilowatt hour usable.
Yeah, that's not huge. So are there any actual stock Ford F-150 Lightning parts on this thing?
Yes, I don't know what they are.
Steering wheel? No.
Steering wheel's got all these adjustments and everything. It's like far away as possible. So anyway, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. I did the full video for everyone who wants to learn about it. It has no relevance to the consumer, unfortunately. It's a cool marketing exercise. It's a cool showcase exercise as to what's possible with electric. If you're interested in what's the, sort of pinnacle of electric performance, well, this has got to be pretty close to that.
Right. I think it's going to be almost as fast as the IDR. I suspect Romain won't be able to beat his record, but
it won't be even in the same league. IDR was under 8 minutes. This one, they're going to go mid to high 8s.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I was thinking, but if they can get within 30 seconds of that overall time, record, that'd be pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Also, the road has gotten a little bit worse since then as well, so that's something to keep in mind. Is I just drove up there yesterday and it's beat up at the top. I mean, I was in a Rivian R1S and we were on the bump stops over every bump, so it's rough up there.
That's crazy. See, back in the old days, I think they used to grade that. They used to haul all kinds of fresh gravel up there every year. And so it was relatively, it didn't do quite like that, But then because they kept pulling out all this, loose dirt up there, it would erode down and cause a lot of environmental sort of degradation. So they were sued, and that's kind of why they had to pave it over time. But you can't really just every year fix the pavement on the whole 12 miles. That would be extremely expensive. And yeah, so I guess the frost heaves everything up there, and so the road is constantly moving a lot, and it's good.
Yeah, there's some big crazy, some big bumps, and for a lot of teams, you have to tune for the top of the hill, which means you give up performance at the bottom of the hill because your conditions are changing massively throughout the climb. So like a lot of these cars are set up pretty soft to handle the top section.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So besides the Ford SuperTruck, you mentioned there's also a squad of Hyundai Ioniq 5N cars competing this year. Only one. It's basically they were going to send 4, I guess, but only 3 are on the list here. So there's one basically stock car, and they have 2 like cup car, kind of especially modified for Pikes Peak. One of those cars is being driven by Randy Probst, which is kind of interesting. He's raced different Teslas there in the past few years, and I think we've seen him in different EVs at different tracks. Or I feel like over the past few years, he's pretty well known. So what's the overall goal for Hyundai here with these 2 sets of cars? Are they trying to win the production vehicle record?
Could be. I'm not totally sure. It's very possible. I was talking to Randy yesterday because he was just a last minute addition to the Hyundai team. And I guess Robin Shute left or couldn't do it, or I don't know, something happened, and Randy jumped in last minute, and he was thrilled. He had some experience with the car because I think Hyundai had contracted him to help with some development, some tuning of the vehicle maybe a year ago, something like that. So he's somewhat familiar with Ioniq 5N. He got in the race car, and I talked to him after his second run or so, and he was just like, wow, this is crazy. And So the thing that's exciting to me is the stock car. That's the one that I want to see, because that is literally watch it go up the hill, go to your Hyundai dealer, buy that exact car. And the one thing that Hyundai was telling me is, so keep in mind, this is like not a $250,000 Lucid Air Sapphire or Taycan Turbo GT, which, by the way, where are those cars?
Right.
Let's get Lucid Sapphire on the mountain. Let's get Taycan Turbo GT out here. Tesla really needs to do a program. Unplugged Performance isn't here this year, running any Teslas. And my understanding after talking to Randy was they were just too embarrassed of the thermal systems. They couldn't get the car to stop overheating. Randy was like, in 3 minutes, Plaid was overheating. Now, my impression of that is that was a lot down to the driver, not managing temperatures for the whole mountain. But it sounds like Tesla really needs to open up some software limits for Unplugged, and that hasn't happened. And so I guess, I don't know, that's the rumors I've heard so far, is like the reason Unplugged didn't come was thermal management. I'm sure it's expensive and there's other reasons as well. So, then I talked to the Hyundai guys right after that, and they're like, thermals, what are you talking about? Like, we're going full send up the hill. And that's the crazy thing, is the stock car is literally, the cup cars are literally stock components for cooling. And we noted when we drove it on track and everything, Ioniq 5N has like the craziest thermal longevity of any electric car I've ever driven. And they're like, okay, in the standard car, they did a couple software tweaks, not really to anything other than the boost button, where like you used to have to go wide open throttle, hit the boost, and then it gives you full power. They're like, anytime you go wide open throttle, it just gives you 641 horsepower, gives you the full rip. I'm like, that's good, because I hate the idea of the button I floor it for a reason.
That's what you want. That's like the Kyle spec, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, put that on one when I buy one, because I don't want to hit the button every time I want to go fast. So they'll give you full power when you floor it, and they changed the electronic damper tuning to be even softer, again, for that top section.
Right.
So that's it. Other than that, it's a stock car. And they were like, well, we could just over the air update the Pikes Peak settings to everyone's car and then have a Pikes Peak mode. And I'm like, do that.
Yes. Yes.
So wow, I was like, damn, Hyundai's thinking like the new players in the software game. This is cool.
Yeah.
So
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah. So I was really into all of that. So basically the stock car, they're really not doing anything other than doing a pre-race precondition, starting it again at 95% state of charge for some regen capability. And they told Randy, don't drive around thermal limits, go wide open whenever you possibly can, and you will not overheat at the top of the hill.
Nice.
It's just go as hard as you can. Then the cup cars, they were like, well, these are not stock vehicles.
Right.
And they're like, we already have so much thermal overhead, which is unheard of in a production electric car. So they're like, we're just going to add 40 horsepower to the cup cars going up, because we literally can't overheat the standard one. And so now the cup cars are making 500 kilowatts, 503 kilowatts, 680 something horsepower, almost 700 horsepower in a electric SUV hot hatch. And they're starting at 20 degrees Celsius or 19 degrees Celsius average battery pack temperature. I have a nerd video coming with Hyundai, and they pulled the logs on all the cars for us.
Sweet.
And they'll reach the top of the hill at 49 degrees Celsius average battery pack temperature, which is like not hot.
Damn. So they could unlock this. They could unlock this for everybody and put that in Pikes Peak mode.
Yeah. So I was like, why did you ship the standard car with only 640 horsepower if this is using the identical components and it's still not overheating? So give us 750 horsepower.
Right. I wonder if there's some other components or things that they're thinking about, with that kind of power. If there's,
well, I think Hyundai has some incredible durability cycles that they run their vehicles through.
Okay.
And so, you look at doing that, they would probably say like, okay, what if a customer did Pikes Peak every day for 10 years? That would be their durability cycle or something.
Right. That'd be crazy. So did they tell you what kind of time they're trying to get with the cup cars? Oh, not with the cup cars, with the standard car. The production vehicle record is...
Go ahead.
The production vehicle record is set by a Porsche 911 in Turbo S just a couple years ago. So it's 9 minutes, 53 seconds, 53 and a half seconds, basically.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to top that with the off-the-shelf N.
That would be pretty awesome to beat the Porsche on the mountain.
So they rented the entire road a month ago, which
Right,
I've never really heard of anyone doing this, but they I mean, maybe for a film like
Well, with a bit of money, you can do anything. I was there one year, and some rich guy from the Middle East brought his Porsche 918 over there, and all of a sudden he had the road a run to himself. There was it was rumored that he paid like $1 million or something, but money talks.
Well, it's a good experience, I guess. You won't ever forget that. And so Hyundai was like, "Oh, we rented the road and tested." Like that, I've never heard of that before. That's crazy. And so they were like, "We're already beating every possible record we wanted easily," but it's all down to weather conditions, and it's down to the mountain. It is luck. A lot of it is you can prep as much as you want, and then weather can just be crap. Weather's not looking crap, which is exciting. Weather's looking good. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. But you never know because it's like weird mountains.
The N team, I just love that so much because that is a car you can go to a dealership and buy and has amazing thermal longevity. No production car would ever be expected to go full rip up Pikes Peak without any overheating. And they're like, we need to turn up the power. We're not getting hot enough. It's insane. So to me, that just sold me on Ioniq 5N. I was already sold in the car. I love the car. Right. But like, that was just, it's so hardcore. It's pretty amazing.
It's a bit more than some of the other performance cars like Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is pretty great. Kind of like the benchmark, but 5N is like I don't know. Just it seems like you say more hardcore than that, and also a little bit more money, a good bit more money.
So then, okay, so that's the Hyundai team. We have a video coming. I hope Jordan's still watching because I want that to go up as soon as possible. And then
so we also have the Rivian now, right?
So I spent some time with Gardner yesterday talking about their R1T new quad motor, Gen 2. It has orange or yellow, compass yellow calipers, which indicates a tri-motor, but it's actually a quad motor. Which is, it's just a hodgepodge pre-series truck, but it is, series production parts. It is representative of a literal off-the-shelf truck. They're running the stock tire even, which is cool. So they've got the brakes glowing red on this thing. It's a heavy truck. It's got to be the heaviest vehicle going up Pikes Peak this year. And you're talking over 1,000 horsepower. And the motors are not a cooling issue. So Gardner ran his own personal truck last year. He was an enthusiast, and he's like, I own a Rivian. I'm going to cage it, and I'm going to go run Pikes Peak. No company support. They did it, and then they were like, oh, what the heck? That's cool. So then the company's like, oh, next year we'll give you a team and like do your thing. And so they had like a bunch of people, and they had a Rivian van and other Rivians around, and it was really, grassroots feeling, but really nicely organized, and they're taking it very seriously. Temperatures on everything. We saw them testing on track and on the mountain, and they're taking it really seriously. I don't know if the Rivian's going to get any records or anything. Their goal obviously is just to beat their Gen 1 quad motor up the hill, which shouldn't be hard to do. So
but it was sort of like that record that Gardner Nichols set last year. That was pretty. It's not like an official record, but it was basically he set the record for a production truck last year with what was it? 11 minutes and 23 seconds.
Yeah, so, the thing that he was running into last year more than anything was thermal limits. And so I was like, well, R1S would make more sense to go up this year. It's shorter, it's spicier. Why run another R1T? And he was like, well, we ran an R1T Gen 1 last year, so we wanted a direct comparison to the new Gen 2 R1T quad motor. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. I think an R1S would still be probably faster up there. But R1T over the bumps, it's going to settle things down a lot better than the R1S will. So
it's slightly longer wheelbase.
Yeah, by a lot.
Okay, that helps. Long wheelbase helps. Yeah.
Yeah, just having our Gen 1 R1S up there, and I was following Gardner. He was driving a Gen 2. We were both still just bouncing all over the bumps, whereas like an R1T would be totally smooth. Yeah, so this will be cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Sounds like motor temperatures are not an issue. Battery temperature is the issue. And battery cooling has been an issue on Rivian since day one. So he's like, we just have to manage battery thermals Thankfully, it's a large battery with a lot of thermal mass, and hopefully he won't hit any major derates. But it's not a situation like the Ioniq 5s where he can't just go wide open whenever he wants all the time, because he has to manage thermals as the driver.
Right. The graphics on this, at least, I don't know if these are quite the same graphics that are on the actual truck, but at least the promotional are they the exact same? Because I look, okay.
Yeah, what looked different to you?
Maybe I'm seeing like clips of last year's truck, because it's kind of similar colors and things, but they're laid out quite differently on last year's truck.
This is the truck this year.
Okay.
I would say that's pretty
that
close.
looks right. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah. It's good looking design. But the graphic design.
Cooler than that is their support van with the wrap.
Right. It's got the colors too.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah. Love that thing.
Yeah, Jordan had a little bit of. I think Jordan has a little bit of footage of that driving by or something. I saw on X.com.
Yeah, I've got it too. If you want me to pull it up, it's not a great one, but here is the truck doing some hot lap testing at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Potato quality, yeah, nothing good there.
Okay,
sorry.
It's okay. All right. Anybody have any Pikes Peak questions? Tom, Martin, you're on mute, Martin.
No, I don't think so. My question is always how much of this gets filtered back to the girls and boys who are actually making the vehicles. In Hyundai's case, it seems like, back in the office in South Korea, they'll be watching this and thinking, well, we made that, right? And I guess at Ford, there is a deep collaboration with Stard, who do all sorts of stuff with electric rallying. And I've spoken to one of the guys from Stard on my podcast before, and it's, a lot of custom things. So how much of that gets absorbed in? How much should companies like Rivian and Lucid be doing stuff like this? Is it a distraction, or does it strengthen your brand? These are new brands like Rivian and Lucid aren't there, but should they be? Because it gives people, there's no Mercedes, BMWs, EVs, things like that. And that just give you, I think, a degree of authenticity in terms of, you say, hey, we make performance cars. You turn up at a performance event. So I think that's interesting. The charging is always interesting. I got an invite this morning to the Formula E in London, and I thought, well, I won't go to that because I've been to Formula E before. I'll be honest, I love motorsport. It hasn't landed with me yet, Formula E, and I love all the people involved, and they're trying really hard, and under new ownership now and what have you. But then it said, if you wish, we can connect you with the team at ABB, and then they can show you all the stuff that they're planning for fast charging the cars in race, which I think is folly, because we don't need to charge cars because it'll be a 60-second stop. It's not like a Formula One car changes tires in 2.5 seconds. It's impressive to see, and then you're off, and you got. Back in refueling days, it was 15 seconds, but you got a whole new tank of fuel. Should we recharge EVs? Probably not mid-race, because everybody has to do it, and everybody in Formula E, they will have to do it for the same amount of time as well. So it neutralizes it, but it means you can use tactics of when. And I thought, actually, no, I will go to that, because that's interesting. Then it's interesting, because it's like, oh, this is the stuff they're working on. So how much of that filters through to the road car stuff? So really, really impressive to see. But the Hyundai stuff, I'm really excited about. Just as Kyle says, it's a stock car. You can go to your dealer on a Monday morning and say, hey, the thing that raced yesterday, can I buy that one today? And the answer is yeah. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, the cool thing is, you can buy that car and a half a day's worth of work plus a roll cage, which is there just for safety. You have the identical car that went up Pikes Peak.
Yeah.
That's cool. Love that.
And Hyundai are launching their Spec Series racing as well. So they're into this. They're pushing N forward, and I love that.
For me, N is more hardcore than M at BMW recently.
Yeah,
they're really taking the old. And a lot of people at N are old school M people.
Really,
and so it's got that old BMW M vibe going on at N, and it's more hardcore. They're building attainable, fun, enjoyable sports cars for people. And BMW M is building XMs, which are ugly, big, heavy, wallowing, awful plug-in hybrid SUVs.
Yeah, it's just a M for marketing now. It's just another way of selling more road cars. It's not. It's like,
don't get me wrong. There's some great M cars out there that are on sale. Like, give me an M3 Touring all day long. Love that thing. But they've just gotten big and heavy and soft. And N is doing the exact opposite. They're like, we're pushing electric. The combustion ones are very attainable and really spicy. They totally got that.
Nice. Nathan's asking if BMW Porsche. Are you listening to this?
No. They're not.
Porsche Taycan, yeah. You expect to see the new Porsche Taycan, which set Nürburgring record, right?
Yeah, Turbo GT should be there on the mountain. I don't know what's going on. That's what we were talking about yesterday. I'm like, we got to call all the people we know at Porsche and be like, are you all losers? This is the best place to showcase your EV in the US.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I'm trying to think of another event. Is there another event that's quite on this level?
Well, so much of motorsport is based outside of. I mean, a lot of motorsport is based in the UK. It's a little cottage industry that we have. So even, big European and US companies will often have a UK base for their motorsport bits. And honestly, Pikes Peak doesn't cut through here. I only ever talk about Pikes Peak with you guys on the podcast once a year or twice a year. And apart from that, it doesn't cut through. And that's crazy because it's a really big deal for US audiences. And it's interesting. Look at the viewing figures that Kyle's had for some of the Pikes Peak stuff. And it does cut through and people are interested. But I don't think it's a big deal to some, maybe at the European headquarters of some of these car makers or the motorsport divisions, as being on our, what's our investment? Where do we invest and where do we put that money in our motorsport programs? I don't think Pikes Peak, if it is talked about, I'd love to know that or not, but it's a shame.
Hill climbs are kind of like a pretty popular format, right? In England?
No, it's I would say it's for men with beards doing something that they built in their garage.
That's great.
Which is fine. Which is absolutely fine.
Okay. For some reason, I was under the impression it was. I remember researching because I'm familiar with this back in the day, so around 2008 or so, when a lot of electric stuff started showing up. I was just writing about it back then, and so I was researching all about hill climbs. I had no idea. I'd never heard about hill climbs growing up, in Canada, but it just didn't. Formula One, yeah, but hill climb was a whole new thing. Okay. So I was thinking, for whatever reason, from my research back then, that was like a kind of a popular little subculture thing in England, but maybe not. Okay, all right. So speaking of Rivian, Tom, you have 2 videos out this week talking about Rivian. One of them goes over the improvements to the second generation R1 vehicles. Is there anything about that video that you wanted to share?
I mean, not much more than I took a little bit of a different angle of where I didn't explain too much of the improvements. What I did was I got 2 Rivian experts, Wasim Ben Sayed, who's a VP of software, to talk about what they did on the software end, and then also Greg Dockner, who's the vehicle line director for R1. And we hopped in the vehicle and went for a drive, and I basically just said, okay, guys, tell me what you did to this vehicle. Why is it better than the Gen 1 R1S that I have sitting in my garage? To explain every little detail. And they went over feature to feature of what the improvements were, and explained what they did and why they did it and how they made the improvements. So it's good, informative video. It's always good to talk to Wasim. That's the first time I sat down with Greg for a while, but Wasim's always great. He's a rock star when it comes to software, and he's Rivian's lucky to have him. So if you're watching on YouTube now, that's me with Wasim. But I also spoke with Greg Dockner for a little while, and we went through all the features. Now, there's a lot of videos out there already on the Gen 2. Kyle's done some stuff. A lot of other outlets have done some stuff. I waited a week or so till the dust settled and everybody else's video out and published mine. I thought maybe I'd get a second push, which sometimes happens. It really didn't happen this time. It's doing okay, but not. Yeah. I thought it was going to do a little bit better. But you just, with YouTube, you just kind of play around and try new things out. But I've kind of stopped launching my videos when everyone's video hits. Like when the embargo ends at 9 a.m. on Friday, there's 30 videos out there, and I'll wait a little bit. This time I might have waited a little too long. I waited like 10 days or something after the embargo, but it's doing okay. I'm not complaining. It's just, it's a different take on it, which I always try to do something that other people aren't doing.
Right. You also had a video out, I think yesterday, talking about how Rivian is adding its charge station reliability scores to the ABRP app. So Rivian bought a better route planner about a year ago. That's an app that helps you, navigate in the US and Canada. You can maybe fill us in on that part. But basically, it'll show you, you put in your destination and it'll lay out all the charging opportunities along the way. So these charger scores live on the app now. How will they affect the user experience?
Okay, so first of all, as you said, there's an app called A Better Route Planner. For people that don't know, EV drivers have been using it in North America for a long time now. It's been a very good tool to help EV road trips. It was even more important years ago when the in-vehicle nav systems weren't as robust as they are now, and you really needed to try to find, okay, where am I charging along my route? It was always good at that. And Rivian bought that app, like you said, about a year ago, and they integrated it into their nav system to help Rivian vehicles have a better, say, wayfinding system to find chargers and so forth. And then about 2 months ago, we talked about it here on the podcast, Rivian introduced a software update to their vehicles that was called the Charger Reliability Score. And what they had been doing for about 8 months or so, they'd been collecting the data of all of their customers, all the Rivian owners, when they're public charging. And they've been collecting data on, successful or failed charging sessions, if the vehicle was getting the amount of power that it was requesting from the station, if first time plug-in was successful, or if you had to re-plug in, a whole bunch of things. And what they did was they rated all the chargers, all the public chargers from A to F. And they gave the Rivian owners the ability to filter out all public charging stations that got lower than a B rating in your nav system. So what you could do is say, look, I'm going on this long road trip. Don't show me any charger that's C or below. I only want to go to the ones that are A and Bs because I know there's a relatively high chance that I'll have a successful charging session. So, which is cool. You don't have to do that. You can just not filter out anything, but then just visually look at them and say, there's an A 5 more miles down the road. I'll stop at that one. And what this announcement was just yesterday, I guess, was that Rivian now has incorporated their charger reliability score into the A Better Route Planner app. So now not only Rivian owners aren't the only ones that get this data. Anybody can download the A Better Route Planner and use it for their EV when they're on a road trip. And now they're getting the access to the score rating. So they can also make their determination as, hey, you know what, that's a D. I'm not going to stop there. 8 more miles and there's a B. There's a better chance that I'm going to have a good charging session. Now, it's not perfect because, for instance, the site could have went down last night or, a couple days ago, and Rivian owners haven't gone there yet to plug in and charge, and Rivian doesn't know that it's not working. They don't know. There's no way for them to tell if people are constantly queued up, like if there's only 2 chargers and it's a very popular site, and every time you go there, you have to wait an hour just to plug in. So it's not perfect. But I did talk to Wasim about this, and he said they're going to constantly improve it. They have a lot of new ideas coming out to make it a better, a better rating system. And this is something that's absolutely needed. I mean, our own Kyle, was toying around with kind of doing this himself. He did for a while with Rate Your Charge. Right. And, that was meant to help people better understand which stations were functioning well. And then they could decide which station to go to on a road trip. I think it kind of started with Kyle without planning on actually making this like an app or a business. He was just like, this is a great idea. And then after so many people were like, we need this, he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do something with this. And but then, Kyle's got 100 channels and a million things to do. I think it just got too much for him. He could speak to that. But now that Rivian is doing it, it's a useful tool. Is it perfect? No, but it's useful.
So will non-Rivian owners be able to add their reliability suggestions or scores to infrastructure? Okay, Kyle's shaking his head.
No, because Rivian would have no way of capturing that data. It's done automatically, through the vehicle. The owners aren't reporting back. But now the owners can. There's a way for the owners to comment, but currently Rivian is just capturing that data. They're not integrating that into the system, which at some point I think they have to somehow, because there's some things that the vehicle itself can't capture. You know what I mean? That it would be good for owners to be able to report on. So, and I think they will. Wasim said that that there's a reason why they started that, where now in the vehicle you can tap an icon and enter notes, like saying, every time I come here, I have to wait 2 hours or whatever. It's in a real sketchy place. I don't like coming here at night. It might be dangerous or things like that. It's just hard to quantify those type of comments into a score. You need a human. Well, I guess with AI, maybe you don't, but you would need somebody to really comb through them and decide how you're going to make that affect the score. It's much harder than the way they're doing it now, where the vehicle's automatically capturing this set of data from the charging session. Did it get full power? Did it initialize immediately? Did the charging session shut off at all? Those are things that was the easiest thing to do. So I assume that's the first step. Hopefully they'll integrate more user feedback in the future.
Right. Cheddar King Powell suggests that ABRP can integrate with many OBD2 dongles. Maybe they can capture data from vehicles that way. Yeah, I don't know. Anyone have any thoughts about this we want to add before we move on? Nope. Okay.
I don't really think people use a better route planner anymore.
I mean, I used it last night just because Robert from Aging Wheels, he shared on a group chat that down along I-10 by New Orleans, there's 2 Electrify America stations in a row out of order. They're offline, so kind of leaving people stranded. So I was just wondering, oh shoot, well, what do people have there to do? So I pulled up a better route planner and just plotted the route from my house to Houston, and could see, okay, they could go to this Tesla supercharger with the magic docks here at Pearl River that could help people out. So there are, I was just kind of looking at. So I used it for that basically. I don't know. I mean, there's probably other ways to do that, but.
Yeah, so I guess I think a lot of EV nerds like us use a better route planner. So like our audience, when I say people don't use it, I mean people outside of our nerd sphere. I think
nerd sphere.
I feel like my mom has never heard of this, and she's driven electric cars forever. She just goes in her car and it tells her where to charge. And so actually, I'm gonna do a video soon comparing a better route planner to. Okay, so let me back up for a second. This week, we're doing a race to Vegas with all of the electric SUVs. On the way back, we're going to race them on the route planners only, built into the car. So we're going to see, basically look at the time it takes to get there, look at the time it takes to get back, and evaluate each competitor's software to tell you where to stop and charge. The winner of that one, in terms of which has the best route planner we feel, we're going to put up against a better route planner, take 2 identical of those cars, and do the built-in one versus a better route planner, which I think will be really fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's very cool.
What vehicles are you taking on this Race to Vegas?
So Race to Vegas will be Model X long-range aero wheels, so full range spec. We have EQS SUV on the 20. They're all 21-inch wheels.
2024.
Yeah, it's the new one with the 118 kilowatt-hour battery pack, clutch disconnect for the all-wheel drive. They fixed the brake pedal in the EQS now, so it doesn't do the weird stuff. Somehow I missed all these updates, and then we got this, and I'm like, why is this so much better than any other EQS I've driven? It's it's still pretty freaking ugly, but it's a cool car, and whatever, it'll be fine. That's the one I think I'm going to drive. It's got the massaging seats, very comfy. I'm looking forward to just cruising in that one. And they've always been pretty efficient for their size. So EQS, EV9, Kia EV9 rear drive, long range, our long-term one.
Oh, nice.
And Rivian R1S dual motor max pack.
Okay. Trying to think of what's not there.
No, we have every big 3-row electric SUV.
Oh, 3-row, right? Right, a big one, not the MQBs or the.
Yeah, not the Model Y small or EQB
right.
situation, but
right. But if you, because like on Battery Bargains, if we have someone looking for a 3-row, we might suggest like those smaller ones, but really people want the bigger ones. Like that's what I'm really excited about the upcoming Lucid Gravity, because that looks like it's going to have tons of room for the 3rd row.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gravity would be a probably smoke everyone in this, based off of everything I'm hearing from Lucid. I was just talking to one of my friends over there. He's like, just wait, it's going to be crazy. I'm like, okay, can't wait. Let me drive it. Other people have driven it. Like, so Lucid invited me over to their headquarters to I have to do a bunch of videos on their cars, because they've updated the base ones. The pure rear wheel drive, still haven't driven that. They've offered I can road trip that back to Colorado. I haven't driven Sapphire. I need to get in that car and experience that. Gravity. So I need to do like a week of just Lucid stuff and catch up on everything they've been doing.
Yeah. No big developments in their factories or anything over there yet, right?
No, they just released a video on the Casa Grande factory with all the automation going in for Gravity. 200 plus robots in. They're training them right now. Really cool production line. They say it's a completely different architecture than the Air, which
it's a different platform. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I know, but like even architecture means like electrical architecture and other things. Right. To me, it doesn't seem. I'll have to learn, but there's like a lot of different stuff going on with Gravity. So, yeah, need to see what's going on there. Yeah, and people are asking ID Buzz. We don't have ID Buzz in the U.S.
True, right? Or when is like? It seems like, is it late? It feels like it's late.
It feels. I mean, yes. At this point, let's just say it's late.
Yeah,
everyone wants it.
And we've been seeing pictures of that thing for like a decade now. It seems like we should be on the 2nd generation of it already. When it first, the concept came out like in 2015 or something like that.
Yeah, but they're all over Europe. I mean, they're not hugely popular, but like you're probably not far off with your refresh comment, Tom, because they're going to base the mid-cycle refresh off of start of production, not off of start of exporting to the US. Yeah. So we'll probably have like 1 or 2 model years and then get the update.
Wow. I saw this week they actually have 1 or 2 or some vehicles coming into North America via Nova Scotia for some reason. It just showed up on social media. But
they have a bunch of buzzes here already.
Right. Yeah, just kind of unloading buzzes in Nova Scotia. I'm just like, what is even going on? Because I don't know when we're going to get this car, but
there's got to be 20 or 30 in the U.S. right now, something like that.
Right,
would be my guess. Yeah.
Marketing vehicles.
Yeah, marketing, testing, integration, competitors as well. Other automakers buying them from Europe and bringing them in.
True. All right. So our big story this week, or the big story this week, probably has to be Fisker filing for bankruptcy, which is probably comes as a surprise to no one. But so they've been struggling for some time, and we've been pretty aware of that. So Fisker said in a filing with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Delaware that its estimated assets are between $500 million and $1 billion. It estimates liabilities at between $100 million and $500 million, with between 200 and 999 creditors. It sounds like a lawyer saying 999 creditors. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that the issues at Fisker were a result of mismanagement and possibly an over-ambitious rollout in all different markets at the same time. Right now, there are a number of Fisker Oceans for sale, SUVs for sale out there, $26,000 and up. Pretty low mileage. I think they're mostly used, but some of them are dealers, so they're, I think the Fisker Ocean Extreme was originally $52,999 before these issues came up, and then they slashed the prices to $34,999 to kind of move as many as they can. And the Sport trim was marked down from $38,999 to $24,999. I'm not sure if any sport trims even got out there. I was looking. I saw one sport trim on cars.com for sale, and it was above $24,999 actually. So yeah, and I saw a claim that there was like several thousand Fisker Oceans that are unsold as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure really, but to say about that, I just have this little note: do not buy.
What? I want one.
Yeah,
I mean, they're collector's items now.
Sadly.
I mean,
Now
you
it's on the list of like cars Kyle can own because it's weird and it was a failure.
This is a great. Martin's pulled up this headline. YouTube star Marcus Brownlee says people shouldn't blame him for Fisker going bankrupt. They were doomed long before any of my videos, he said, somewhat defensively.
I mean, it was brutal, and even the follow-up, they even sent him another one,
Right.
And then that was less brutal. But I mean, it began with the title, which is "This is the worst car I've ever driven" or reviewed or something, but the whole thing was he wasn't doing it. He doesn't need to do clickbait, right? He is the top tier A-list YouTuber. Probably, he sits at the top table of YouTube, right? And so he doesn't need to shock and all those things and just make up stuff. So he genuinely had reasons for saying it's the worst car. And I think lots of people blamed him at the time for being sensationalist, but I suspect they didn't actually watch his video, which was fair.
Yeah.
And even when they sent him a new one, hey, we fixed everything. He's like, yeah, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that is still terrible that I didn't talk about in my original video because there was more terrible stuff that I had to get to. So it's not his fault, but also, it's Fisker stuff, and I don't think I'll get a third chance.
But it's funny, like most people, like a normal person, just like get into a Fisker and driving it, they might really enjoy it.
They can't get into it because the key fob never worked.
No, they fixed it in software 2.0.
Oh, they fixed it, right? Yeah. Oh, gosh.
So you would buy one, Kyle. So I was thinking, like, who's going to buy these things now? Me
and Robert Dunn.
Right, you and Robert. Because like most people, if they have the money to buy one for fun, that might not be what they want to spend that kind of money on. Really, there's all kinds of other vehicles out there that do everything else probably better.
Well, you have to wait until there's one left, and you could make a video. I bought the last Fisker Ocean.
Right, yeah. After 10 years,
the last new one.
Yeah,
the last new one.
In 10 years' time, somebody will call you up and be like, "I've got a warehouse full of Fisker bits and four SUVs. Do you want to buy them?" Yes.
Absolutely. That's going to happen too. They're getting stuff's getting stockpiled, and I'm going to end up owning it in 10 years' time.
So what about like a spec racing series with Fisker Oceans? Like buy like 50 or 60 of them, strip them out, throw in some roll cages.
No, they're pretty, safety. Who wants that? Just
they're pretty quick. They're pretty quick, right? Big batteries, pretty quick. Handle like not so great at speed, I'd imagine, but
yeah, I don't know. Never really spent that much time with them.
Yeah. In the wake of the bankruptcy, Lucid Motors has applied for the Ocean trademark, which has prompted speculation that it might buy up Fisker's assets. Tom, do you think that's likely, or is it more likely that Lucid had wanted to use Ocean for an upcoming model previously and decided now is like a good time to stake its claim on the Ocean name?
Yeah, I won't just say no. I'll say hell no. Lucid is so proud of their in-house engineering and how everything is scrutinized and optimized for efficiency and everything. They would never take in somebody else's tech. That's my opinion of Lucid, and I've talked with them a lot about a lot of engineering things. So no way. It's purely because, well, look at Lucid's nomenclature already: air, gravity. Right. We're hearing Earth for the upcoming mid, and ocean. Ocean or water. I mean, it fits right in. So
Earth,
they just want
fire.
the name. They don't want anything to do with Fisker's technology. Lucid is an in-house kind of place. So no, it's just the name.
Kyle, you're in agreement?
I love Lucid Ocean. Sounds awesome. That sounds like a car that's been in production. Like, of course, the Lucid Ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm surprised they hadn't trademarked like a whole bunch of names when they first started the company, like all in that, naming scheme. I'm surprised they hadn't done that already. Maybe Henrik had beat them to it and trademarked it like, 10 years ago or something, and so they couldn't grab it. But this seems like a perfect fit for their naming, scheme.
Yeah. It's like
So-
Oh, go ahead, Martin.
Good. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's like Earth, Wind, and Fire adjacent,
Yeah.
like
I
the
guess.
naming.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We should talk about the owners of those vehicles. I don't know how many there are.
Yeah, that's a good question. We could probably figure
Francie
that.
just interviewed one. Brian, our friend Brian, has one, but he sold it. He said, "I don't want to deal with this."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So he sold it used. Well, do you know about what he got for? Because the new ones are going for 50% off.
Maybe
what would
one
a
of
used
our
one go
viewers-
for?
Maybe
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
our viewers here listened to that podcast. I haven't yet. I just talked to Francie about it. But
Yeah, because I'd be
yeah,
like,
basically, as soon as they're like $8,000, which they will be in no time,
Mhm.
can't wait to make my new daily driver a Fisker Ocean.
now,
Yeah, so I would say
they have tech that somebody will be able to decode in time and update in the way that when products become obsolete, there's often either garagistas or homebrew projects that keep these things going. I'm thinking like the Raspberry Pis of the world, and there's decent technology inside the Fisker, but in terms of the raw code of that, I don't know how much of that gets lost in history and time. So
Yeah, but we know a lot of Magna people, right? They've sponsored
Yeah.
Out of Spec for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone at Magna has the computer we need.
Well, of course. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so to keep those vehicles going and on their and not just strip the battery out of them and and the motors and send the rest to the crushers. That would be a shame. This is a story in the history of electrification of transport because Fisker arrived at a time when SPACs and special purpose acquisition, whatever they were called, companies, corporations, the world went nuts and things were just worth ridiculous amounts and they've all gone down. And the ones that haven't gone bust are worth a fraction of what they were once valued at. See Rivian, see Lucid, but they're still here because they're the real deal. But everything else that jumped on that bandwagon has and Fisker really arrived at the right time. He got his second chance. The vehicle looked great, but it arrived at that mania, that investment mania, the speculation, the gold rush arrived at just the right time for Henrik and his wife to get that opportunity to do it a second time around. I really feel for the actual owners who aren't EV enthusiasts. Because this is a cool piece of history to own. Who just thought, oh, that's a great vehicle from an upcoming. They lumped them in with the real deal companies, and now they're kind of left with something that's cost them a lot of money, and it's not their fault. So,
yeah, I think they could have made it too. It's kind of a shame. I just think they just really overly ambitious in the rolled out, across different markets in Europe, then over here. Those are big money operations. You really should. One market. Start with one market. Get established.
There's one around the corner from me. Like, what are they doing? Building right-hand drive versions? And I don't know the owner. But it sits outside his place, and I go past it and smile, and I'm like, well, that's interesting that there's a Fisker 5 minutes from me.
So
But
I've got a similar vibe, maybe from Ineos.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. The thing that really worries me is they're thinking about building an electric Grenadier or whatever they're going to call it, the Ineos
Right.
something.
yeah.
And they build a really cool SUV and pickup truck now. And I'm super into it. And I really want to spend some time, real time with one. I think we have a press truck in the area I can grab. But I was in Colorado Springs for all the Pikes Peak stuff. They have 200 sitting on the lot.
Wow.
A ton. They're everywhere. And they're expensive.
Did you read the reviews?
No.
Don't
know.
So it's quite as excellent as you'd hoped. Really,
But I think that's the point.
some
It's supposed
foibles.
to be like an old Land Rover Defender, which is
Yeah.
right.
the
Right.
worst possible
Well,
vehicle ever.
I understand they've nailed that.
Yeah, they've got it. That's great. But that's what, as an old Land Rover Defender enthusiast who likes shitty cars, that's exciting to me. But I don't know how many Kyles there are in the world. Not enough, I think, to support a car company like that.
Right. We do need more Kyles. I think the world would be a better place.
Don't know about that. But the Fisker situation is really disappointing. Also because I know what Magna's capable of. And I talked early days of talking to Magna. I was like, just do you think you're going too far in with Fisker? They're like, we're cautiously optimistic. Should have been more cautious, less optimistic. Would have been better for them as well. A lot of the stuff in that car, body structure, seats, bunch of other stuff, all Magna developments, not the software. And the software, if they let Magna do the software, probably would have been a better vehicle.
Yeah.
Because I remember I did a video with the head of software for Fisker, and it was awful. He didn't understand the technology. He couldn't explain anything that mattered to me. Couldn't tell me about route planning, all the stuff that mattered from an EV perspective. He's like, I'm like, who is this guy? And I remember even Alyssa was filming the video. She's like, are you sure that's the head of software? And I hate to throw him under the bus, but we were just left. When you talk to Wasim at Rivian, you're like excited about software in a car. Like that's the most boring thing ever. And he makes it so awesome. And I just had the exact opposite experience years ago with the Fisker guy.
Man, so is there any kind of future for Fisker vehicles? Is anyone coming to rescue them out of bankruptcy?
No. What do they have? That's why would any company want anything Fisker has? All the hardware is Magna, right? So anyone can just go to them and have them do all that stuff again, rather than spending all this money to deal with a failing company and a bad public image. There was no secret sauce.
Right. Design, basically.
Yeah.
It's just
okay, but it's not like it's not
amazing. Right. You can't. Well, it's hard to hang. It's difficult to hang a whole company on design. Basically, it can be done in some circumstances, I think, but.
No, I think if you're building a car, it needs technical expertise, and I think in our market, having bespoke or proprietary technology competing at the top level is the only way to make a desirable product in the EV space right now. It's what Lucid has hung their hat on. It hasn't been easy for them, but I think especially with Gravity, that's the right product. A little bit late, but it's coming at the right time. Maybe 2 years, 3 years late. That them going into the engineering story on that car will win over a lot of buyers. Yeah. And I think Tom knows this better than anyone. A lot of people buy Range Rovers, G-Wagons, other vehicles, not to do what they're actually built to do, but just for the confidence to know if they had to, they could. And so it's really nice to know that the Lucid Gravity probably is a very track-capable, unbelievably well-balanced, great handling SUV. Could most people buying that car evaluate it in that sense? Probably not, but it's just nice to know you got the best.
Yeah, right.
So, that's what sells cars, I think.
Yeah. And Lucid also has, because of their engineering, they have supply deals with other automakers. So they're just starting to do some of that now, which is great to see. People are, the industry's recognizing that they are kind of the engineering leaders.
In many ways, I think Peter went on to where they're like, we're years ahead of everyone else. I mean, I don't know how to judge that from my perspective, but
we can see the Hyundai people have stuff going on too. That's,
I just don't like the snootiness sometimes that I get. I get this little "we're better than you" vibe at Lucid, and maybe yes, but also I never get that talking to the Rivian guys. The Rivian guys are just like, we're just trying to build the best car we can, and it's freaking awesome. And it's a little bit more passion driven rather than we're showing the world what we can do driven. So yeah, but it's okay. I mean, make incredible cars. The Lucid Air, what maybe the best handling car platform, given the compromise of how comfortable and huge it is, I've ever driven. They really know what they're doing at Lucid.
Right. Cool. Let's see. It's getting down. Let's see. So I guess we'll move on a little bit. I got one more story here. So spring 2024 was the time frame that GM was officially going to join or gain access to the Tesla Supercharger network. It is now officially summer 2024. No news from GM or Tesla on the matter. According to a piece on Instagram. Sorry?
Is that true? Because I just saw today the news.
Oh, is there news today?
The adapter is officially available from GM as of today.
Oh, I didn't see that news. That's fresh this morning then. I looked around this morning. I didn't see that anywhere.
You could order the adapter from the GM dealerships for about 2 weeks now.
I don't know. It was on the parts list, but I think it was listed at $0 or something. They wouldn't let you order it.
$25. I know people that ordered it.
Right.
Okay, interesting. But today something happened too. I just saw it scrolling through Twitter.
Yeah, I didn't see anything yet.
But I don't think it's activated with the network, but we're days away. And I see Bolts in Michigan charging on superchargers all the time. They're doing all their testing.
Yeah.
So,
and on Saturday, sorry, Dom, on Saturday, this last Saturday, you could, if you had a GM vehicle, you could charge on superchargers with an adapter for about 12 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that Tesla opened up the supercharger network to do some testing wide, like just as a prequel. So, when I reached out to somebody that I know at GM, and they said really soon, Tom, now. So yeah, if you remember, that happened, I think, with Ford vehicles or Rivian vehicles. I forget, one of them.
Yeah, Rivian.
It was like a week earlier, right, Kyle? Where there was like a day where you could, it worked, and then it stopped working. So that day was last Saturday, I believe, and so we're a week from the them doing that. I'm saying before July 1st, GM should have access, but let's see.
Let's look at the stream here. It's no one's saying anything. Nathan said he just checked the Tesla app. Still no GM access. According to the piece on Inside EVs, it was Tesla that actually set the target date of the spring 2024. And of course, it was just a few weeks ago that the Tesla CEO Elon Musk fired pretty much most of the supercharger team. So I guess it's not hugely surprising that it's now officially late. If it is, it seems to be still late. According to Inside EV source, who is somebody at GM, anonymous, the software is done. GM has the adapters in stock. They're ready to go, and Tesla has the automaker in its app. Their source said access should be granted in the next few weeks, but they didn't give a timeline. So that sounds like that lines up with what we're hearing any day now, basically, right?
Yeah. Any day now.
All right.
Cool. Right.
And we haven't heard the last of the non-approved / approved adapter. Say rules.
Okay.
I have a feeling in the coming days there's going to be some news on this adapter / non-adapter stuff.
Wow.
So, what do you know, Tom, that you're not telling us?
I little birdie told me a few things that I really shouldn't get into just yet, but I will tell you there's going to be news with this coming soon. Pretty big news with the adapter, adapter / non-adapter, say fiasco. And
would you suggest that people not buy an adapter right now that isn't that's third party? Or should people hold off on picking up a third? Would that be
not really? Because they work. They still work.
They work right now.
Particularly the A to Z one. No, they'll all continue to work.
Okay.
Because there's no intelligence inside them. Nobody can make them not work. But I think the industry, many people that are in position of power in this field are not happy with how the Electron adapter has had a problem.
Right.
Had continuing problems. Even they had a problem where it would pull apart, so they fixed it. Now it won't pull apart.
But you got one there, Kyle?
The Electron adapter, they sent it to us, and I'm like, I don't know why you sent this to me. I'm not using it, but I got one.
So if there were no issues, if these third-party adapters came out and there were no issues, I don't think there'd be much of a problem, because they all have them getting tested for UL certification. And it has always been my opinion that if the adapter gets UL 2252 certified, if UL puts it through the courses and says, okay, this thing, it's certified, I have absolutely no issue using it and telling people to use it, regardless of whether the OEM says, I don't want you to use it. That's my personal position. But the fact that there is no UL 2252 isn't completed yet, or it's done. It just hasn't been certified, and nothing is out there. I understand why automakers are being cautious, particularly on the fact that one of the largest companies that makes adapters is having continuing problems with it. Now, luckily, it's like nobody's gotten hurt. There hasn't been any issues with any vehicle or charge port or charger having an issue. But just the point that there is a lingering problem that is safety related, I think the industry is going to take some steps real soon.
Interesting. The nerdy Arab says, my dealer won't let me order it. I guess GM dealer?
GM adapter. He's probably a few minutes in lag.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I know some people did, and it cost $25. It cost
Someone
$20.
commented that they canceled all those orders.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I know they're charging. Some of my followers told me they were charged $25. Some of my followers told me that the dealer charged them $26. So I don't know which one, but it's right in that wheelhouse, which I'm fine with. I know people were mad. Well, Ford was giving them away for free. Rivian, why do we have to pay for them? You know, when something is free, it gets abused. And I think there's a short supply of these right now, right? Obviously, the people are waiting to get them. You should have a little skin in the game. So I'm totally fine with saying, pay us $25 and we'll send it to you, because they're losing money on it. The thing costs way more than $25. So, I thought it was really nice that Ford and Rivian sent them out for free. But honestly, I would have been fine if both of them said, look, pay for the shipping and we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Have a little skin in the game, because I'm sure since it's free, a lot of people said, oh, yes, give it to me, and put in their VIN, and they'll never use it. And now people that really want it don't have it. I've offered to my followers, give me your address. I have 12 of them here. I said, give me your address. I'll mail you one, and just promise to send it back to me. You could use it on your road trip next weekend or whatever, and just return it. And because they're in such short supply. So I'm fine with charging a small fee like that. I mean, hell, I'm fine charging the full price, because you should pay for something, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you can go online now and buy like used new ones of the official adapter. So I just bought one yesterday for $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. The official one.
Just saw it on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, I could use an extra one. And there we go.
Yeah.
So there's someone that didn't need it,
Right.
said, well, it's free, give it to me, and said, I'll just flip it and sell it and make money on it. That's exactly why I say we should have some skin in the game.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yep. Yeah.
By the way, speaking of the adapter, I'm on 5% battery on my computer, so we'll see if it makes it. But
yeah, we're ready to go. We're about.
I'm ready to ride the charging curve on this thing, so I'm just draining it down.
You need a range extender for your laptop,
exactly.
Kyle.
I need a range extender for my SuperTruck, actually. What was I going to say? Oh, the adapters are overheating. Or the adapters aren't, but the handles are overheating on superchargers, causing massive derates, especially with Rivian, more than Ford vehicles. Ford vehicles don't pull more than 450 amps on the adapter, but Rivian does. Rivian will just sit at 500 amps. And it seems like maybe the thermal derate limits are even earlier than on Tesla vehicles, when the supercharger recognizes you're using a magic dock or an adapter and charging a non-Tesla. And it's happening to everyone in the Rivian community. It's happening to me every charging stop, where I plug my Rivian in with my official NACS adapter. And it's a big thing. Everyone's talking about it. And it just goes, you get like 5 minutes, maybe less. So in Moab, I got like 30 seconds. And then it was like, it's slower due to charger. And it's because the handle on the supercharger is getting warm. Keep in mind, the adapter does not do dynamically derating. It will just do a cutoff if it gets hot. Some people are saying maybe the A to Z has better a connection point, which could reduce the amount of heat buildup, which would then keep the supercharger handle colder. But what you have to do now is just grab a water bottle and just pour water over the handle, or wet rag it the whole time. And so I did. Yesterday, charger, I was just pouring water on it, and like it rains outside, so just pouring light water, and it kept me charging pretty well. But I'm going to develop a sprinkler system, so I can just have a garden hose spraying over there. But
one of those outdoor camping showers. Just have one of those, solar powered. Just keep pumping the water.
And I have not experienced any derating, but I haven't used it recently now with the temperature going hotter, Kyle. But I've used at least 10 times on my Rivian and my Lightning, mostly the A to Z and the Tesla adapter. Once the electrons started having issues, I stopped using that. And I just keep the A to Z in both my vehicles. So I haven't really experienced that much yet, but I have to, maybe I'll try it now that it's hot. It's 94 degrees here today.
It'll happen almost instantly. Plug in at 5% state of charge, something normal, 5-10%.
Yeah.
Ride.
Well, I'll do it 10 to 80 because that's what I recorded in my I recorded 3 sessions of that 10 to 80 with the Rivian, and it was 40 minutes each time, 41 or 42.
What I'm thinking is a couple things. Yeah, maybe the adapter is getting warmer, but it could be that Tesla, like I mentioned, has also lowered their maximum temperature limits on the handle. Keep in mind, it's 350 amp nominal rated cable, so they're operating in a boost function at 500 amps, and it could be when they recognize a non-Tesla plugged in that they dynamically derate at earlier temperatures, because it's like 2 weeks ago it started, and now everyone's experiencing it in the Rivian community, and we didn't really hear about it that much before, so I think something must have changed there.
Well, the temperature's gone up too with the summer now, Kyle. So the starting temperature of the handle is probably 15 or 20 degrees warmer than it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so the supercharger top tip, I've been mentioning this in videos forever since the version 2 days, is try and find the shaded one that like a tree is shading the cable, and plug in there. You'll get a little bit more time before it derates.
So we need canopies is what you're saying over at charging stations.
I'm not a big canopy proponent. I like it, but it's not a make or break for me.
It's just nice, like for weather in the rain and the direct sun, like on the units. And plus, this would be a great, place to mount some solar just to have
but like the permitting time and cost associated, I'd rather just put charging in and not make that a requirement. But yeah, it's nice. Whenever there's a canopy, I'm always pleased. It's There's no downside to having it.
Right. I guess it's hot up there right now. Mark is saying, Tom, that it's 94 degrees in New Jersey.
Yeah, we get into the 90s in the summer a few days, and this whole week it is. It's going to be in the 90s like 4 days in a row. So jump in the pool in a couple hours.
Tom, what you really need to do is just fly out here. We'll go to Moab. I was charging 117 degrees. It was toasty.
I do need to do that. I would like to do some testing in hot
I'd love to go to Moab. I've never been to Moab.
I didn't really talk about it much because we didn't really leave last trip, but I did this, I've done 2,000 miles in the R1S now, something like that. And the cooling systems were ripping for like 48 hours, full send, nonstop. It was just on max cooling. And so that's where I'm excited with Gen 2 Rivian, where the heat pump system should have even better cooling, which it needs. So I'm looking forward to that because the battery was in the red. We were overheating in the cabin. Everything was hot. Car couldn't keep up at all. And our charging sessions, even though the handle was overheating, wouldn't have mattered because once we wrapped that with a wet rag, then the battery overheated. So we were battling thermals everywhere.
Right. Oh, I forgot to mention, Kyle, this week you put out an update on your Cybertruck ownership experience, didn't you? Like a 2-hour long. You got it squatted in the Carolina squat there in the video. Right on. Yeah. So people who are interested in the Cybertruck and what it's like to live with that for 15,000 miles?
15,000 miles in 3 months on our Cybertruck. Did the video, and then I also wrote a thing for people who don't have time for the video on X. It's an article under my tab.
Awesome. Right on. All right. Nathan Green asks Equinox.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's just asking Equinox EV range test anytime soon?
Yes.
Okay.
So Kyle, what was going on with the recall on the Cybertruck wiper motor? Because my friend actually called me up yesterday. He was supposed to get his Cybertruck delivery like 3 weeks ago. They called him up. They said, okay, we're delaying it for like 2 weeks. You'll get it in 2 weeks. And then he was supposed to get it yesterday. And like in the morning, they called him up like, yeah, we can't deliver to you. We found that there's a problem with your wiper motor. They didn't tell him it was like a recall. They said like our pre-inspection, pre-delivery inspection found that you have a problem with your wiper motor, so we can't give you delivery today. And then I saw it's like a full-on recall. Do you know what's going on with that?
I don't think it's a full-on recall because I have not received anything that I need to bring my truck back in. I think it's a technical service bulletin.
Okay.
But yeah, I've heard about it. I don't really know much about it. My windshield wiper flew off. I don't think it's related to that. But that's fixed now. Yeah, wiper issue.
Owning a
I saw
Tesla.
the same headline and I was like, that's funny, typical Tesla stuff. and then
Is that
moved
the
on.
only trim that's flown off the car? I've seen a few videos with pieces of other trim coming off at speed.
Yeah, other than my wheel lug nuts falling off, that was the wiper and the lug nuts backed themselves off. That's about it.
Okay. All right. So I guess we should call that a show.
Good night. Good times.
If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or get in touch with us on the social media platform of your choice. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up, click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications. We hope to have an midweek episode this week coming on batteries. Kyle, I need to talk to you about that, see if you have time for that. Click subscribe, tap that bell icon for notifications, and thank you all very much again for joining us. It's been great. We'll see you again next time. Ciao.